contribution to WNYC right now. You rely on us for in-depth, independent election coverage.
And we rely on you. Here's how to help. Here's how to help. Dial 888-376-9692, or you can go online to WNYC.org. This is All Things Considered on WNYC. I'm Jamie Floyd. I'm here today with my colleague Julianne Welby.
Hi, Jamie.
And we love talking about elections on All Things Considered. As you know, we like to peel away the claims and statements that come at you from across the political spectrum. All that media coverage focused on the controversy of the day. We like to give you a thoughtful examination of the issues. And if you like to hear all of that, we are raising the money today that keeps it coming to you. Go to WNYC.org or call 888-376-9692 to support the programming, the news, the information that you hear every day.
We know you count on us for the sane voice in a huge media landscape that sometimes can sound like shouting and confusion and horse races. You know that's not what you get here from WNYC. We're committed to strong election coverage. We have a team dedicated to it right now, and year-round we're definitely engaged and tapping into what you want to know and having a two-way conversation about it. That's the difference in WNYC. The other difference is we're non-commercial, so we really need you to step up and, as a two-way street, support the work we do here. This is the first fund drive of the year, and we'd love you to participate now. Show your vote of support for our election coverage and all that you get out of WNYC. 888-376-9692 or a quick pledge online at WNYC.org.
And many listeners may not realize that all of this programming that we present is not free. WNYC actually spends more than $8 million a year to bring you the news from NPR, the BBC, and our own newsroom, which is bustling right now in the midst of this election season. And listener contributions are the single largest source of our funding, which I didn't know. I had to be told. I just kind of took it for granted until I became a member myself as a devoted listener.
I wonder how many listeners take it for granted.
Yeah.
Like, it's there, but no, like when you give to WNYC, it really does matter.
It really is a community. It's a partnership with our listeners. You count on news from WNYC. We count on you to make it happen. Help us bring it to you for another year. Call now with your contribution, 888-376-WNYC. That's 888-376-9692. Or you can always, if you prefer, as many people do these days, go to WNYC.org.
And I recommend a $100 contribution. This is not only just a membership to WNYC, but we'll throw in the Hamilton soundtrack as well, the CD for the hit musical. You can't get tickets, you can get the soundtrack. Maybe give it to your spouse or to your significant other. And, you get a year of membership at WNYC as well. That's a $100 contribution. It's so worth it for all that you get out of WNYC. Please do it now and help us have a strong winter fund drive. We know that we can pay the bills, keep doing the news we want to do and that you want to know about when we have your contributions. 888-376-9692 or a pledge at WNYC.org.
And all you have to do is think about how much you listen to WNYC. Do you wake up in the morning to Morning Edition? Are you tuned in now to All Things Considered in the evening? Is that a regular thing? Maybe you look forward to the weekend. Wait, don't tell me. I know I wait. I actually play along. I admit it, I'm a geek. Or maybe the moth is your thing. All that listening is really worthy of financial support, especially since our contributing listeners are the largest share of our support. Please go to WNYC.org or call 888-376-9692. And thank you.
Support for NPR comes from member stations and from LifeLock, reminding consumers that when shopping online or using public Wi-Fi, a trail of personal information is left behind, increasing risk of identity theft. More at lifelock.com. And Epson, with the EcoTank line of SuperTank printers, all-in-one printers featuring refillable ink tanks that come with up to 2 years of ink in the box. Where there's business, there's Epson. Learn more at epson.com/forbusiness.
And you're listening to All Things Considered on WNYC. I'm Jamie Floyd. New Jersey Governor Chris Christie's endorsement last week of Donald Trump for president has caused surprise, anger, and in many quarters, disappointment. And that's coming from long, loyal New Jersey Republicans, including some who helped run Christie's presidential campaign, even from members of his inner circle. New Jersey Public Radio's Matt Katz spent the weekend speaking with Republican insiders, and he joins me now in our New York studios. Hey, Matt.
Hi, Jamie.
Well, who are these leading voices in opposition to Christie's move?
Women, actually.
Ah.
Meg Whitman, a former California gubernatorial candidate and the national finance co-chair for Christie's failed presidential campaign, called Christie's endorsement an astonishing display of political opportunism. Jennifer Rubin, who's a conservative blogger and has been a stalwart Christie booster, she's been teeing off on Christie and said he is, quote, an isolated, pathetic object of scorn. His campaign finance chairman from his presidential race and a guy who helped run the super PAC supporting his campaign have all come out on the record against this, and more quietly, I've heard from long, loyal New Jersey Republicans, even people very close to the governor, and they were shocked that he did this. Few people knew it was going to happen, and they're really upset.
But Trump is the Republican frontrunner. He's been friends with Christie for more than a decade. From a personal and political standpoint, Christie endorsing Trump makes some sense, Matt. All these Christie backers who are upset, what bothers them the most?
Essentially, they see a guy who has built his career telling people he prioritizes policy, and now he's sold out to a hateful demagogue, whom he, by the way, disagrees with on every major issue. And they see that he was just doing it as a last chance at political prominence for himself. Trump's made scores of comments offensive to minorities and women, and on the other hand, Christie has a long history of actually reaching out to the marginalized in New Jersey, particularly Hispanics and Muslims. Close Christie allies are fearful that Christie's reputation as a big tent Republican could be just irreparably damaged for associating so closely with Trump, and New Jersey Republicans are also concerned that with Trump at the top of the Republican ticket in November, he could hurt them in local races, and obviously Muslim leaders have also come out on the record against this. Christie appears to have made this endorsement without consulting his closest associates. They were not involved in the media rollout of the endorsement, and there were a lot of missteps with that. Christie was booked for Jake Tapper's show on CNN on Sunday morning, and then he suddenly canceled because a source who was familiar with this told me he was concerned that he'd get roughed up by Tapper on the show over the Trump endorsement. So instead, Christie went on George Stephanopoulos' show on ABC, and things did not go well.
On the Muslim ban, are you saying now that you endorse the ban on having non-citizen Muslims?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that that's only one piece of an overall approach to national security.
But you disagree with it.
I said that very plainly. Listen, George, here's the bottom line. Elections are choices. And you look at the candidates up on the stage, and you decide, all things considered, who's the best choice.
Not sure why he would think George would be easier on him than Jake. That was a difficult exchange. What's the benefit here? What does Christie think he's going to get out of the Trump endorsement?
Well, he's already gotten something out of it, a return to relevance. He was said to be antsy back in New Jersey, and now he's back on the road again with Trump. He got to introduce Trump to a rally of tens of thousands of people this weekend in San Antonio. That's a huge, adoring crowd that Christie himself never saw in his own presidential race. He got to go back on the Sunday shows. We'll probably be seeing a lot more of him on there on CNN, Fox, MSNBC. So there's that. And then if Trump wins, with Christie as the first major Republican establishment figure to endorse him, there's got to be a position for Christie in the administration. If Trump loses, maybe Christie's gained favor with parts of the electorate that have backed Trump, and that could help Christie with his own possible presidential run in 2020.
Christie had a press conference in Trenton today. What did he have to say about all of this Trump news?
Absolutely nothing. He was there to nominate a judge for the state Supreme Court, and for the first time in my 5 years covering press conferences in his office at the State House, this was the first time I'd ever seen him hold a restricted press conference, so no off-topic questions, no Trump questions, but he did take a somewhat related question about President Obama's plan to nominate a Supreme Court justice and the GOP Senate's vow not to even hold hearings, and he showed a flash of his old iconoclastic self. He said people can vote up or down however they choose, but hearings should be held.
There's some news. Before the endorsement, Governor Christie's favorability ratings had dipped to an all-time low, a lot of it because he was out of town so much, and now is he going to be hitting the road for Trump?
Yep, NBC is reporting he'll be with Trump for Super Tuesday tomorrow. He was in Texas and Tennessee on Friday and Saturday, so this is not going to sit well for many New Jersey residents, Republican or Democrat, but there he goes.
Matt Katz covers Governor Christie for WNYC. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Jamie.
Comedian Chris Rock hosted the Oscars last night, a black MC looking out at a sea of mostly white faces. Through his jokes, Rock blasted the awards for its lack of diversity. But NPR TV critic Eric Deggans says even while he nailed the Oscars' shortcomings, Chris Rock also revealed his own blind spots on race.
Chris Rock walked on stage as strains of the Public Enemy song Fight the Power blasted in the background. He was ready to talk about race.
Well, I'm here at the Academy Awards, otherwise known as the White People's Choice Awards.
More specifically, he was ready to take on the Oscars for nominating an all-white slate of actors for the second year in a row. And generally, he did a pretty good job. His monologue was unpredictable and occasionally raunchy. Classic Chris Rock. He actually made fun of people on both sides of the Oscars So White controversy. First, he seemed to chide Jada Pinkett Smith, who currently appears on the TV show Gotham, for boycotting the Oscars.
Jada boycotting the Oscars is like me boycotting Rihanna's panties. I wasn't invited.
But then, he did answer the question on everyone's lips.
Is Hollywood racist? You're damn right Hollywood's racist. But Hollywood is sorority racist. It's like, we like you, Rhonda, but you're not a Kappa.
Pre-tape comedy segments extended that commentary throughout the show. There was a bit where black actors were inserted into Oscar-nominated films, including comic Tracy Morgan and The Danish Girl.
I'm a Danish girl.
And Rock also talked with filmgoers, mostly black, at a theater in Compton. Most of the Oscar-nominated films this year weren't on their radar.
How about The Bridge of Spies?
Where are you getting these movies from? You making up stuff, you messing with me, right?
No, these are real movies.
No, it's not. I watch movies. I come to the movies all the time.
These are real movies.
Like in London and stuff.
Did you see?
It was a steady flow of satire. Rock wouldn't let audiences relax for long before reminding them again who wasn't in the running for awards. But that's also where he ran into trouble. Rock's jokes on diversity mostly focused on the exclusion of black people, ironically excluding Latinos, Asians, and other people of color. And when he did mention another ethnic group, bringing out several Asian kids he introduced as the accountants who tabulated Oscar voting, well...
If anybody's upset about that joke, just tweet about it on your phone that was also made by these kids.
Yeah, he mashed together stereotypes about Asian kids being good at math and enduring child labor in one awful joke. That's too bad, because most of Rock's comedy delivered the kind of public spanking Hollywood needs to push it into featuring more people of color in high-quality movies. With luck, he might actually keep the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences from making the same mistakes a third year in a row. I'm Eric Deggans.
You're listening to All Things Considered on WNYC. I'm Jamie Floyd. The U.S. has made progress in combating HIV/AIDS in recent years, so much so that the disease has largely dropped out of the headlines. But its devastating effects are felt in parts of the country, especially among the poor and people of color. In her new film, Wilhelmina's War, June Cross traveled to the South and turned her lens on one family living with a potentially deadly disease. Cross, a documentary, TV, and film producer, as well as a professor at the Columbia School of Journalism, traveled to South Carolina to capture the life experience of Wilhelmina Dixon, a 62-year-old grandmother caught up in the fight to obtain health care for her daughter and granddaughter, both of whom are HIV positive. June Cross joins us now to talk about the film and her experience. It premieres tonight on PBS. Welcome back to WNYC, June.
Thank you so much, Jamie, for having me.
First, tell us about Wilhelmina Dixon. You visited with her for several years, from the period between 2009 to 2015. You spent hundreds of hours with Ms. Dixon and her family. What about her life compelled you to tell her story?
Oh, she's so so smart, and still she's not an educated person. She doesn't read and she doesn't write, but she knew as much about HIV and AIDS as any of the public health officials that I talked to from Harvard or any of those, highfalutin public health places. And she was really doing this all alone. It was her isolation and the isolation of the town that she lived in. She lives in Williston, South Carolina, which even people in South Carolina don't quite know where it is. It's halfway between Charleston and Columbia, sort of in the western side of the state, heading over to Georgia. And it was the isolation that she existed in, and yet the determination that she had to care for her family and give them access to health care no matter what.
And about 50,000 Americans are still diagnosed with HIV every year.
Every year.
How did we get here after all of the HIV and AIDS awareness of the 80s and 90s?
I think because African Americans overwhelmingly see this as a gay white man's disease. Most of the imaging that has been put forth by the government and the wonderful work really that AIDS activists did in the 80s and 90s and getting the attention. As a result of that, most of the messaging has been, when you look at what's come out, you mostly see either gay guys or gay white guys, particularly gay white guys. Heterosexual black men are very rarely in the conversation. Black women, until recently, were rarely in the conversation or any of the messaging that we saw. So there's a sense in the African American community that it's not our problem. It's really reflecting the marginalization of the African American community. More likely to be unemployed, more likely to not have access to health care as a result of that, more likely to live in rural areas isolated from other folks, less likely to have a good education. So all of those things combined, I think, are leading to where we are now.
And you explore in the film, June, the stigma of HIV/AIDS, especially outside of big cities like New York and small rural communities like the one where Wilhelmina and her family live. Is the diagnosis kept secret? What kind of backlash is there?
Yeah, people really don't want to say if they've got it. There's still a sense, because we're also in the Bible Belt, that if you've gotten, because of the stigma that attaches to both homosexuality and drug addiction, that if you have HIV, you must have done something bad to get it. So that, combined with all the other factors I talked about, makes it really difficult for people to be sort of out of the closet with their illness. People can live for a long time now, thanks to the new advances in medication that have been made. But folks don't want to let anybody know that they have it. And so if you're living with a disease, you're trying not to let anybody know. You have to treat yourself. You have to eat regularly. You have to have a house that you can live in. So that you're not exposed to external stressors, so that the medicine can do its work. And if you're living in shame and depressed, you're less likely to take your meds. You're less likely to be eating. You're more likely to be using other substances like alcohol or drugs to sort of help self-medicate, because it's not any behavior that anyone's doing. It's because folks have become so marginalized that there's now a whole constellation of things that are affecting their ability to come out of the closet. And shame is right up there.
June Cross is an Emmy Award-winning journalist and professor at the Columbia School of Journalism. June, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Jamie.
Wilhelmina's War premieres tonight at 10 p.m. on the PBS series Independent Lens.
It takes full participation to make a community radio station possible.